just waiting for everyone to enter the chat. I'm super excited to be here today with each one of you. We'll just give it a minute or so as everyone starts tuning in. While we're waiting for people to tune in, invitation to write down in the chat where you're currently tuning in from, the traditional territory that you're currently on. If you don't know what traditional territory you're currently on, you can look up native little dash land.ca and it'll show you the traditional territory you're on. For me, I'm tuning in from the traditional territory of Toronto, Treaty 13 territory. It is home to the Masagas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And so invitation to write down where you're currently tuning in from. Also, I have an assistant with me off camera. Her name's Sarah. She'll be popping some resources in the chat. If at any time you feel like you need some extra support, there are some resources, some helplines that you can reach out to. There's also some resources for books and a little bit further insight into National Truth and Reconciliation Day and Orange Shirt Day if you want to further your education and your awareness about the importance of today. And so for the sake of time, I do want to honor everyone's time here. And so we're going to start today with a prayer to open up the space in a good way. And then we're going to go through introductions, what National Truth and Reconciliation Day and Orange Shirt Day means to me and to Sophie, and how that relates to wellness and how that relates to our well-being. And then we'll go through a meditation, a light movement session. So if you have a mat, that's perfect. If you don't, it's okay. We'll also make it as accessible as we can through sitting down. But if you want to grab water, if you have some smudge nearby, you want to join the prayer, you're more than welcome to. So today I'm going to be opening up the space with some smudge. So I'm using sage. And so option to grab your medicine nearby if you have it with you. If not, it's okay. I'll be opening up the space for all of us here. So hi. Thank you, Creator, for allowing us to share space virtually. I call upon my ancestors that are healthy, that you open up this space in a good way. Thank you for bringing us together to acknowledge National Truth and Reconciliation Day and Orange Shirt Day. We offer gratitude and support and compassion to all the Indigenous communities, not just here in Canada, but globally, that this day impacts. We also offer a deep sense of gratitude to residential school survivors, to the Indigenous children that never returned home. And may we offer this gratitude and this kindness and the compassion, not only just here on our mat, but may it also be shown through the actions we embody each day in this world. So hi, thank you for allowing us to share space virtually. And thank you for tuning in and for being us here today for National Truth and Reconciliation Day. So hi, all my relations. Awesome. Sweet. So Tanse, welcome. My name is Shayla Olette Stonechild. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm Red River Métis and Plains Cree from Musqueam First Nations Treaty 4 territory in Saskatchewan. However, I'm actually in Treaty 13 territory in Toronto. A little bit about me. I'm the founder of the Matriarch Movement, which is a nonprofit organization, online platform, and podcast that focuses on amplifying Indigenous voices, particularly Indigenous women and Two-Spirit voices. And we also provide wellness workshops to Indigenous youth and BIPOC women across Canada. We do this in person and online. I'm also a global yoga ambassador for Lululemon. And this day is really important to me because my dad, Kevin Leslie Stonechild, he actually went to residential school. And so this directly impacts my family. However, I feel like because of the trauma that we've gone through, this has also made me who I am today. And I think it's just as important to talk about the healing that we have within our communities and how that's found in our language and our culture and being in community with each other. with each other. And so when we talk about reconciliation, I think that it goes further than just talking about it. And so this is why I invited Sophie here with me today. Sophie, I'm super excited to have you here. When we talk about reconciliation, I think it's important to also hear from non-Indigenous people and how your role as an ally contributes to reconciliation. If you just want to introduce yourself to the audience, thank you so much. Hi.
Thank you, Shayla. So my name is Sophie Grégoire Trudeau, but call me Sophie G. Sophie G in the house. I think that when we start believing in titles or positions, or we're doomed. We are all here to make this world a better place, and I want to be of service as much as I can with my voice, my heart, my soul, my connection to other human beings. I am now sitting in front of you on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe people right here in Ottawa. And can I just say, Shayla, that the amount of tenderness, and I want to use this word and I want to sit with it, because when we come into this world as little babies, without tenderness, without proper validation and care and presence, we don't do very well. And it's the same as adults. And as we sit today in truth and in reconciliation, the only way that we can reconcile with ourselves as human beings, with our true nature, but also with other people, is to sit with the truth. And that truth is not convenient most of the time, because it exposes all the facets of the prism that we are in this life, and what we've done wrong and where we've gone wrong, and when we've done right and where we have loved right. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for your tenderness, for inviting me into your space. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think so. Originally, Sophie's team had reached out to do a Instagram live, and I thought that was important. But I also thought, what does healing actually look like in person and in relationship to each other? And so, National Truth and Reconciliation Day is a day to honor residential school survivors and Indigenous children that never returned home. But for me, I'm curious also for everyone here in the chat, like, what does reconciliation mean to you? So you're more than welcome. We want to make this an open space to also learn from everyone that is currently tuning in. So my question for each one of you participating is, what does reconciliation mean to you? For me, reconciliation means reconciling the past within our own hearts and healing it within our own hearts, within our own minds, within our own actions. And I think first you have to have awareness to what has happened here within Canada, and you have to understand the truth and how this relates to wellness. Well, for me, I'm a yoga practitioner, and there's a word called ahimsa, and that is talking about truth. It's talking about nonviolence. And so for me, reconciliation is taking a look at what has happened within our own lineages and our own roots and our own stories, having that awareness, having that truth. And then there comes a place of acceptance, and then purification. So how can we begin to purify maybe the parts of ourselves that we have been not looking at, or maybe the parts of our history that we haven't been looking at? And so awareness, purification, and then I think there comes a time where you feel initiated into something. And so you're initiated, whether that be through your own healing journey, whether that be through someone you're in contact with. I feel like we go through a period of initiation, and then after that, it's action. And so this day, as much as it is about awareness, it's also about cultivating action. And so how can we take actions towards national true reconciliation? Well, they have already outlined the framework that we need, and those are held within the 94 calls to action by the Truth and Reconciliation Report. This calls upon every Canadian, every industry, every level of government to start implementing actions to support Indigenous communities and to support residential school survivors. But Sophie, I'm curious to know, what does the word reconciliation mean to you? And what are some ways you think that you can embody reconciliation on your own path?
Right. I think it's such an insightful question to lean into. And it does remind me of, when I was on your website, the quote that's on top, you say, "We are the creators of the reality that we experience." Now, I agree with that. I also want to add that as a mental health advocate, and I also teach yoga and retreats, and I try to get closer to other people. I'm an only child. I grew up from 0 to 4 in nature, and nature became my guide. She became my mother, as she is the universal mother. And I find that through your matriarch movement and what you said on your website, that we are the creators of the reality that we experience. We also have to remember that we create our minds, but before we create our minds, the world created our minds with the reality that we experience as young people, as as communities. And when you go through so much pain, and when you go through so much hardship, your mind is created in a way, from a neurobiological perspective, where there's an alert mode, there's a hypervigilance, there is a distrust, and that is not our true nature. Therefore, for me, when we think about truth and reconciliation, we have to take into account, first of all, that Indigenous ways, and this is personal to me, but in a way that I find that your ways, if we are taught more and educated more and come closer to you and to how you practice your own healing, I think that Indigenous ways hold habits, rituals that are healing in themselves. And we cannot appropriate them to us. We must learn and we must get closer. And that's true physically, and it's true, mentally. So I want to thank you for opening up this space, because we need more of it as non-Indigenous people.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. I do want to mention that quote, "We are the creators of the reality we experienced." I capitalized creator because it's not necessarily saying that we are just the creators, but it is connection to creator, where we begin to create the reality that we experience. And so it does tie into our worldviews that we have as Indigenous people, and that is tied to land. And so I think when we talk about reconciliation too, it's about healing our relationship to the land and healing our relationship to, like you said, to nature and to Mother Earth, and also to one another. And I think for me, my father went to residential school. He was in 40 child welfare homes across Canada. He was institutionalized. That led him into the prison system, and he eventually took his life within prison. And so for me at 16, I had a really big shift in my awareness, and I started questioning everything that I thought I knew. And so through that questioning came also a dismantling of everything that I thought. So dismantling of those programs that you're speaking of, that I think maybe I was growing up witnessing. And so now at 16, I made a promise that I was going to do whatever I could to ensure that other Indigenous youth and Indigenous women wouldn't feel like that was the only option. And like you're saying, I think it is found in our healing modalities and our ceremonies that we have as Indigenous people. And I do think allyship and amplifying Indigenous voices is a part of reconciliation. And so thank you for being here, and for showing others what allyship may look like.
I think the dismantling is a universal responsibility. And as non-Indigenous, we must dismantle our own programming, not only of how we come into play with others and with ourselves, but with Indigenous communities all across this country and in the world as well. And the only way to do that is to face the truth, is to be educated on this matter, is to lean in and to come closer. It's like any kind of relationship, whether it's political, whether it's with a lover, whether it's with our kids, our communities, our workplaces. If we don't come closer, then we're not really facing the truth. And that's, again, it's true physically and it's true mentally. So, it's really important. I think I was watching one of your clips in your Matriarch podcast. And by the way, everybody listening, this podcast, for me, was so insightful watching clips here and there. I just want to tell you how much I appreciated it. The variety of people that you have and that you have conversations with, not only is it insightful, it's deep conversations, but it's also accessible for non-Indigenous people who want to understand more. So thank you for that. And there's also humor and playfulness. And I thought that was also a great way, from a mental health perspective and a wellness perspective, to really let the sacred come in. And I don't want to appropriate this, because I did hear that some Indigenous communities believe that the sacred cannot set in and come in unless you've laughed. I don't know what you think about that, but I think you play with that very well in your podcast.
Thank you. I
That.
appreciate that. And that was kind of my next segue into how wellness can support these conversations and this work. We're going to dive into a short wellness session here pretty quick because of time. But for me, I think wellness and the tools that we have for wellness, whether that's meditation, whether that's praying, fasting, being in ceremony, being in community, being on the land, I feel like it's foundational to reconciliation because it allows you to sit in your emotions and whatever you're feeling. And I feel like oftentimes people are scared to sit in the discomfort. They're scared to get it wrong. There's a fear of not being perfect, maybe being judged, and maybe there's shame and guilt attached to those things. So it's like, how can we sit in this discomfort to be aware of it, and then to also realize that this is what it means to be human?
I think the discomfort is the gift, right? We're not talking about trauma here, but the suffering, the pain of the suffering of what it means to be human. It's a freaking roller coaster for what it means to be human, and that roller coaster is more intense for marginalized communities and people who have known so much trauma in their own history. So I think that this notion of community, by the way, like I don't think we have it as much in non-Indigenous spaces, and
Mm.
I I I think it's admirable and it's healing. We need that connection as human beings to be able to not only regulate our minds and our nervous systems, because something happens right now as we're having this conversation. When I'm trying to look into your eyes, obviously we're not in the same space, but to meet people face to face in this culture where we're more on screens, we're less in nature,
Mm.
we're less in connection with our true nature, and we're sick for this, and
Mhm.
we long for this connection in so many ways. And I think that the more we face the truth of our history as a country and as a world, and that we're willing to sit with each other, not only in separate circles, right, with each other, and to discuss this. I think that, as you said so eloquently, the shame and the guilt and all the veils that we don't need, that will not serve us on our healing path, we need to shut them together. And that's not
Mhm.
always a comfortable place to be in, whether it's in a sweat lodge, whether it's in a talking circle, or in an education board, or whatever it is. It needs to happen. And I don't want
Mhm.
to be fearful of it. I want to hold it with as many people
Mm.
as possible.
Thank you for that. It kind of reminds me, before we begin our meditation session, it kind of reminds me of going into a fast. Did my first 4-day fast this year, and you feel very scared because you don't know what you're going to meet on the other side, and you don't know who you're going to become while you're fasting. However, you know it's going to bring you a lot more clarity and a lot more appreciation for life on the other side. So you're willing to take that risk because you know what's on the other side is important, and it's going to become that much more greater in your life. It's going to impact your way in ways that you never knew. And so with that, I invite you all, wherever you're currently tuning in from, one, you can send in questions through the Q&A box because this is a webinar, and we'll post all the links through socials and our website to Matriarch Movement. But I invite you to come on this journey and start with a meditation, and then we'll grow into a brief movement session, and then we'll close out with that Q&A. And so I invite you, wherever you're currently tuning in, to find your way to a tall seat. So maybe you move your sit bones from out underneath you. Maybe you roll your shoulder blades onto your back. So opening up your heart, opening up to Creator, to creation. And then before we close before you close your eyes, I invite you to observe the environment that you're currently in. So noticing the room that you're in. Maybe there's someone else in the room with you. Give them a little smile. So noticing this environment. And then when you're ready, either closing your eyes or bringing a soft gaze to the floor in front of you. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, side out your mouth. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhale, side out your mouth. Letting anything that may have come up during this conversation or even earlier today go, and just arriving here right now together. So taking another deep breath in through your nose. This time, exhale through your nose. We'll do 4 rounds of breath, 4 to honor the 4 seasons, the 4 directions, and the 4 foundations within the medicine wheel. So taking a deep breath into your belly, your ribs, your shoulders. Exhale from your shoulders, ribs, belly. So taking a deep breath in for the generation that was here before us, into your belly, your ribs, your shoulders. Exhale from your shoulders, ribs, belly. Taking another deep breath in for the generation that is here now, belly, ribs, shoulders. Exhale from your shoulders, ribs, belly. Last round for the future generation. Inhale to your belly, ribs, shoulders. Exhale from your shoulders, ribs, belly. Now I invite you to bring awareness to the sounds that are in the room with you. So maybe it's a car driving by, maybe there's a fan in the room. Just notice the sounds that are in the space with us. And then notice your breath that connects you to your spirit, that connects you to your heart. Now I invite you to visualize some roots coming down from your heart center through your belly, your thighs, your feet, and spreading down into Mother Earth, connecting you to the traditional territory that you're currently on, and our roots connecting us to the stories and the shared history that we have here within Canada and its relationship to Indigenous people. So taking a deep breath to honor those roots and to honor that land. And then as you travel up from the roots, I invite you to come back to your heart. Maybe you place your left hand and your right hand over your heart and create an intention, an offering, a prayer for today, for National Truth and Reconciliation Day and Orange Shirt Day. What is your intention here today? Breathe into that intention. Exhale. Maybe it's for listening. Maybe it's cultivating forgiveness or gratitude. And then I invite you to bring your palms to heart center, bowing head into heart, acknowledging the lineage of where yoga comes from and its roots and the ancestors from India. And then when you're ready, I invite you to rub your palms together to create a little bit of heat. And then place your palms over your eyes and feeling that sense of warmth and gratitude run down your face, over your heart, over your belly, over your thighs, coming back into Mother Earth. And now before we begin, I invite you to lift your palms up to face the sky. And again, offering a deep sense of gratitude to the residential school survivors, to the Indigenous children that never made it home, to our families and our communities for being here, and remembering what it means to be in relations with one another. Wokotwin talks about the kinship, but it also talks about a responsibility that we have to each other. So how can you bring your intentions out into the world through your actions? So hi, all my relations. When you're ready, interlacing your palms towards the front of the screen, up overhead, opening your eyes if you haven't already. Maybe give yourself a little smile. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale, shift over to the right-hand side. And then spinning your heart towards the ceiling. And maybe really grounding down through your left glute. And then when you're ready, coming back to center, shaking it out, letting any tension go. Inhale, your palms towards the front of the screen, up overhead, option a smile. Inhale, and then exhale, shifting over to the left-hand side. And again, spinning your heart towards the sky, maybe really grounding down through your right glute. When you're ready, coming back through center, placing your palms to your thighs, or if you're on the ground, maybe placing your right palm over to the floor. Inhale, left arm extends up. And if you're on a chair, exhale, you can twist over to the right-hand side. I mean, if you're sitting too, you're gonna twist to the right-hand side. Take a deep breath in, and then maybe look over your right shoulder. So coming back to your breath, here you can start to cultivate the Ujjayi breath. Then when you're ready, coming back through center, placing your left palm back towards either the mat or your chair. Inhale, right arm extends, get really tall, take a deep breath in, and then exhale, twisting over to the left-hand side, and then maybe looking over your left shoulder. When you're ready, coming back to center, and then interlacing your palms towards the front of the screen, up overhead, and then to the back of your head. Elbows are out wide here. Take a deep breath in to lengthen, and then exhale, start to curl in, bringing your chin towards your chest, maybe looking towards your navel, maybe feeling a slight stretch along the back of your neck. When you're ready, coming back through center, and then bringing your fingertips towards your collarbones, and then inhale, looking up towards the sky. And then when you're ready, coming back through center. And Sophie, I know you were gonna take it over. So Sophie will do a brief movement yoga nidra with each one of you. So hi.
Thank you, Shayla. Thank you for creating this safe space. May we continue to lead ourselves closer together in this safe space. As we sit together, wherever you are, if you have your eyes slowly gazing forward and down, or if you have your eyes closed, that's fine. And try to come even deeper into your inner landscape, into the space behind your eyes, as I lead us for just a couple of minutes through a little yoga nidra, a yogic sleep session where we're not going to sleep, but all we're going to do is simply let yourself be guided. You do so much in your own life to take charge and to lead. Now it's time for you to just receive and let yourself be guided into your inner world, leaving the stimulations of the outer world completely out. You are worthy of rest. You are worthy of resetting, of being in a place, in a space inside of yourself where the warmth, the softness, the tenderness, the patience, space of the mothership of Mother Nature holding you into the universal womb, the womb from which our roots, our tenderness, our freedom resides. It's time to let go. Coming deeper into the weight of your own body. All limbs becoming softer and heavier. Trust your body. Trust your heart. Melt the eyes behind the eyes. Create space between your eyebrows. Relax your jaw. Relax your jaw even more. Soften your shoulders. Soften the inside of your mouth. Feel the cool breath coming in through your nose without changing anything. The warmth of the breath coming out near the upper lip. Feel the hips heavy. Soften the body in stillness. No thinking, sensing the body. Sensation of your right hand, the right forearm, the upper right arm, the right shoulder blade, sensation of right hip, the whole right leg, the whole right side of the body from the crown of the head all the way into the right foot. Relax. Let it sit in stillness. Leave it. Leave the right side of the body. Bring your attention to the left side of the body. Sensation of your left hand, left forearm, elbow, upper arm, left shoulder blade, the left hip. Sensation of the left leg from top of thigh and hip to the left foot. The whole left side of the body from the crown of the head to the left foot. In darkness, sleepy, protected, mothered. The whole entire body, your whole body, safe, soft. As you land in the space inside of you, bring your attention to the space between your eyebrows and lean back with your soul and heart into the space that you created. No limits between your body and the space you are in. Sameness, oneness. There is no limit to how spacious you can be right here. Sense this space. No thinking. Take this spacious, loving, creative and soft space, and melt it into your heart center. You can choose to just stay here, or softly take one hand over the heart center and the other over it, and feel your physical body very slowly coming in from the inner space of the safe womb you created for yourself, and just feeling the warmth of your own hands over your heart center. Shayla, Sophie, everybody who's joined in to this moment right now, if we could put our hands together, if we could put our hearts together, just for this moment, can you invite the warmth that that would create with the deep forgiveness, the deep presence, and the deep love that unites us as humans? May we sit with this in this moment and in every day when we move forward very slowly. And with this slow motion, I invite you to open your eyes very softly, almost with resistance, with beautiful resistance. And may this beautiful softness accompany our wise defiance to understand that we have to create incredible good defiance together in order to create change. Thank you, Shayla. Thank you, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you, Sophie, for leading that beautiful yoga nidra practice. I'm just going to close out this space before we take questions with one last prayer with sweetgrass. So hi, thank you for everyone that is currently tuning in. Thank you for this conversations, and may these conversations and these practices continue to guide us throughout our dreams, through the people that we meet, and through the opportunities that come our way. Hi, thank you for connecting us virtually and for showing us what reconciliation has the possibility of looking like. So hi, thank you, all my relations. Awesome. I know we just have a few more minutes here. I do have some questions. Okay. Sarah Jameson says, hello, and thank you for this opportunity. My son, he's 6, are tuning in with gratitude on the traditional lands of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, Vancouver. Hello. How can we practice this going forward? And can you tell us more about the experience of fasting? All right. So fasting for me, I fasted with 250 women. And so there you kind of start making changes to your diet and what you're having a long time before you go into fasting. And so for me, I was fasting for clarity and to also let go of something in my life. And so I knew why I was fasting. And so when you're fasting, you're usually dedicating to something bigger than just yourself, and you're going in with prayers. You also have to prepare before you go into a fast. And so there you're really challenged with obviously no food. Mine was a lighter fast. I was allowed water. But sometimes no food or no water. And so there you're really focused on your prayers. And one thing I learned about fasting is that your thoughts hold a lot of power when you're fasting. And so when you're fasting, I had to remind myself not to give or feed into maybe the negative thoughts that I was having or the negative energy I was carrying, because I knew that was going to make me a lot more depleted in my energy and in my life force. And so I really had to be mindful of what I was thinking and praying about while fasting. And it really showed me the power that our minds have and how our thoughts can really give us life or do the exact opposite. And so fasting is done in a lot of Indigenous cultures and in a lot of cultures across the world, actually, as a form of discipline and sacrifice for prayer and for healing. So hopefully that answered your question. Sophie, I don't know if you want to also answer how we can take some of this healing energy and healing that we're doing here forward.
Well, from a yogic standpoint, because we both teach yoga, the fasting, and also, the veganism, the eating as, less meat as possible. But obviously, we understand that depending on your culture and your cultural ways, that might not be possible. But the way that we want to clear the mind, yogi is used to practice the physical practice of the movement to detoxify the body and the mind of negative thoughts and the debris that we all live with in our minds in order to meditate better. So fasting is not just, sometimes people say, oh, it's a diet thing, or it's a way to really know what you're made of. Yes, obviously that's part of it, but from a spiritual perspective, I would say, from a universal spiritual perspective, it really allows you to take away the debris that could be clouding what we think of ourselves and other people, and in order to sit in meditation with more calmness. And apparently, it really does have the mind more vibrant and more one-pointedness, which is what meditation is about as well. So that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Another question: how can we sit with the anger and pain of our trauma without letting it destroy us? That's a good question. I think, honestly, I think for me, I spent a lot of time trying to run away from the anger and the pain that I was feeling. And I didn't realize that that was affecting me subconsciously. And it was also making me feel resentful towards myself or maybe to other people. And so for me, I had to learn to sit in my anger and pain, but then also find healthy outlets for me to get rid of that energy. And so I'm currently in a somatic teacher training, and it actually talks about the power that we have and how our bodies store these emotions, and how movement is essential in clearing this energy and some of this trauma. So I would invite you to have a movement practice, but also to seek maybe some friends or some like-minded people, find a community. Maybe it's a yoga class, or maybe it's going to the friendship center, but find a community where they're also focused on healing. Those would be my two things. I don't know, Sophie, do you have any other recommendations?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, movement, exercise, good food, hydration. These are all things that your body needs to I would say, not process trauma, but to be able to take care of yourself. There's these basic needs that your body does need. But I would say community is everything. You don't have to sit with your pain alone. As a mental health advocate, isolation kills. It does. And you don't have to suffer alone. And some people are scared to talk about what they're going through because, they think, and I understand that nobody will understand them. Most of the things that we hear when we share, there's no surprises. No matter how traumatic it's been, no matter how hard it's been, there are other human beings along on this path who have had maybe similar experiences and who are here to listen. And when you think there's nobody, maybe there's nobody in your immediate family or in your circle, but if you go maybe one step forward, you'll see that there are allies all along the way. And it's just so important that you don't have to sit with your pain alone. And by the way, Shayla, when I listened to one of your podcasts, I think it was Diane Hupfield, who was talking about the fact that there, for example, in your shawl dance, and I learned this, that the steps and the drumming are biologically healing in themselves. So you have so many ways to be able to regulate your nervous systems, because when you're traumatized, your nervous system is in alert mode all the time, in stress mode all the time. And this can make you actually sick physically. So I think we have so much to learn from your slower, deep, drumming and different dances and steps coming together in community that are actually biologically healing. Maybe you want to share more about that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's the thing. We have so many resources for healing as Indigenous people. Yes, it's fasting. Yes, it's praying, but there's song, there's traditional song, there's dancing. I took part in one ceremony, and there was some Indigenous people holding space through singing a song and through drumming. And I was going through my own release of crying and letting things go. And you know what's funny is that one song, it was my anchor through the whole practice. And I was like, wow, it really is that simple. But also what was really healing for me was being witnessed by other Indigenous people when I was going through and releasing that trauma. And so I would say having someone witness you and being supported is so foundational to overcoming and to letting go of that anger and resentment. But it can be as simple as song, and it can be as simple as just being in conversation right here and right now, together.
You know, they say that anger comes a lot from repressed sadness. So as human being, it is so important when we want to deal with trauma that we release the sadness that is deeply rooted somewhere inside your body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much to each one of you for participating on National Truth and Reconciliation Day, Orange Shirt Day. I did put some resources in the chat for further education. There's some podcasts that you can listen to. You can listen to Matriarch Movement podcasts on Apple and Spotify. You can also read 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph. Also, Indigenous Relations and Insights. I'll make sure to put all these resources in the chat. Thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us here today and honoring this way that honors Indigenous people and our communities, but also maybe hopefully leaving us in a place of empowerment and hope and willing to take action and furthering our education. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Always as allies. Thank you.
And make sure you continue and follow Matriarch Movement for any upcoming events. We will be holding a full moon medicine circle series, and we support Indigenous women and BIPOC women across Canada through our online programming. So make sure you follow Matriarch Movement. Hi. Thank you so much for joining. Take care, everyone.